Hello everybody, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. This is part 2 of the Hebrew Goddess review. I just want to say thank you for everybody that took the time to watch part 1. Part 2 is going to be more defined and we're going to go more in detail about Asherah and her roots. So again, thank you again for taking the time to watch this video and let's get into it. As we get into Asherah, the female goddess, we're going to be going over some key aspects and notes that I want to go over. One of them is going to be the significance and roles that Asherah played in the Proto-Hebrew days in Canaan, including with the Phoenicians that coincide with them in that area. We're also going to be going over worship and suppression that Asherah faced throughout her history as she was worshipped and expelled from in certain parts and time during the days of the Hebrews in the Canaan area. The connection with Yahweh, we're going to go over written description, and we're also going to show a photo. Yes, that's right. A photo that's depicting Yahweh and Asherah together. You're going to love this. And we're also going to show early female worship that the early inhabitants of Canaan showed us with their carvings, their writings, and show you all the oldest, and I'll say it again, the oldest undisputed figurine made by man. Yeah, don't know if you guys know this, but we're gonna go in this one. But yeah, sit back and I really hope you guys enjoy this. Now, it may not be common knowledge to everybody, but Asherah was worshipped in Israel from the days of the first settlement in Canaan. The Hebrews have taken over the cult of this great mother goddess from the Canaanite. For public worship, the goddess was represented by carved wooden images implemented into the ground, and it was usually next to an altar dedicated to the god Baal and located on hilltops under leafy trees. For private religious use, inoperable small clay figurines of Asherah were in circulation, showing the goddess in the nude with the characteristic gesture of holding her own breast, emphasizing her fertility aspect. Because she was a female deity, it was associated with fertility, as we all know, with women and the process of giving birth. But let me get a little closer significance of her also. As it says here, Asherah is identified as a consort of the Sumerian god Anu and Ugartik and El, like we said in part 1, the oldest deities of their respective pantheons. Like I was telling you guys, early view of these deity was a polytheistic view, not monotheistic. This role gave her a similar high rank in the Ugaritic pantheon. Deuteronomy 12, these are early talks of Asherah that you can actually see in the Torah and in the Bible, has Yahweh commanding the destruction of her shrines so as to maintain purity of his worship. The name Dion, which like Elliot means goddess, is clearly associated with Asherah in the Phoenician history of Sanctuanathan, because the same common epitaph of the goddess par excellence was used to describe her at Ugrade. The book of Jeremiah, written circa 628 BC, possibly refers to Asherah when it is used as the title Queen of Heaven in Jeremiah 7:16 through 18 and Jeremiah 44:17 through 19:25. Now, what was the reason for me saying all this? To be honest, this to show that there was early worship of Asherah when it came to the Israelites coming into the Canaan area, because there wasn't just one group of people, it was multiple groups of people that were in this area. So I want to just make sure I get that point across. And as you can see to the right of the photo, that's Asherah holding her breast area, a symbol for fertility. And if you look down, highlighted it for you, it is a consort of Yahweh in the Israelite religion. And as you can see, since I brought it up earlier, there was multiple groups of people that came into the Canaan area. The Ugrites, the Canaanite, of course, the Amorites, the Akkadian, the Assyrian, and the Cabanian. Before we even go into this next slide, I just want to chime in a little bit. You all got to remember, this is 800 BCE. This time is totally different than us humans can comprehend how these people interacted, traveled around this time. Well, we can date back because we have a lot of anthropologists and archaeologists that can piece things together to see how these people lived back in the day. But you got to understand their language was totally different from us. Yes, over here in the West, we speak mostly the English language, but that's not what they speak back in the day. You got to remember this language is new and is still ongoing to this day. So I just wanted to chime in and throw that out there. But for the worship and the suppression, as it says here, episodes in Hebrew Bible show a gender imbalance in Hebrew religion. Asherah was patronized by family royals such as the Queen Mother Maak, 1 Kings 15:30, but more commonly, perhaps, Asherah was worshipped within the household and her offerings were performed by family matriarchs. Just like I was saying on the other slide before, that mostly females were the inheritors of this worship, of course, being a fertility. So let's continue. As the woman of Jerusalem attested, when we burned incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings to her, did not our husbands know that we are making cakes impressed with her image and pouring out drink offerings to her? Jeremiah 44:19. Like I said, this passage corroborates a number of archaeological excavations showering altar spaces in Hebrew homes. The household idols variously referred to in the Bible may also be linked to hundreds of female pillar-based figurines that have been discovered. Now, if we keep reading here, popular culture defines Canaanite religion and Hebrew idolatry as sexual fertility cults, products of primitive superstition rather than spiritual philosophy. There was just people, not to interrupt, but there was just people just speculating, not doing any research on this stuff. And sadly, that's why the West has demonized all of this and put it in movies and pop culture for us to get a different view of it. But let's continue. This position is but stressed by the Hebrew Bible, which frequently and graphically associates goddess religions with prostitutions. You see how they switch define rights with prostitutions? You'll see right here. As Jeremiah wrote, on every high hill and under every spreading tree you lay down as a prostitute. It's in Jeremiah 2:20. Hosea, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel in particular blame the goddess religion for making Yahweh jealous and cite his jealousy as the reason Yahweh allowed the destruction of Jerusalem. As a sexual and fertility rites, it is likely that once they were held in honor in Israel, as they were throughout the ancient world, not just the Israelites, people. I want you to know everybody was doing this around this time. It wasn't just one selected group like the Israelites. No, multiple groups did this. They did fertility rites to honor the female deities, but just want to throw that tidbit out there. Although their nature remains uncertain, sexual rites typically revolved around women of power and influence, such as Makkah, the Hebrew term Kadishtu, usually translated as temple prostitute or shrine prostitutes, literally means priestess or priest. Again, that's when you translate it to Hebrew, and because the English was going to give you a different definition for that word. So just wanted to throw that tidbit out again too. Now on this slide, as you'll see, it's the famous pottery that has inscribed on it Asherah and Yahweh, dating to the Iron Age, the Second Iron Age, 1000 through 586 BCE. And as you can see, anthropologists and archaeologists tried to piece this pottery back together. It's actually a kind of funny story how it was found. And it was actually found on accident, to be honest with you, like most things that go on through this life, we find on accident from the ancients. But yeah, and they digged it up somewhere around Egypt. And as you and I would say, people were just astounded when they actually describe what the text was saying, which it's in a Semitic text. And as you can see, it says Yahweh of Samaria and his Asherah. So this is a really, really important piece that kind of pinpoint Asherah and Yahweh together. This is like pretty much the roots of where people start questioning if Yahweh ever had a consort. So, but in the text right here, it reads, in the 9th century, the Yahweh religion began to separate itself from its Canaanite heritage. You see now this is where they start rejecting certain practices, old practices, I would say. Let's keep going. But the rejection of Baal worship associated with the prophets Elijah and Elisha in the Bible, of course, you can look it up. This practice continued over the period 800 to 500 BCE with legal and prophetic condemnations of the Assyrian sun worship and worship of the high places, along with practices pertaining to the end and other aspects of the old religion. Features of Baal, El, like we explained, and Asherah, there she is again, were absorbed into Yahweh slash El, or El, Hebrew, became a genetic term meaning God, as opposed to the name of a specific God. And epithets such as El Shaddai, another name for Yahweh, came to be applied to Yahweh alone. In this atmosphere, a struggle emerged between those who believed that Yahweh alone should be worshipped and those who worship him with a larger group of gods. So now pretty much there's like different sects in this group. There's a Yahwehism, the early Jews too, that kind of wanted to separate it and try to fight for domination and the true heir and the true rights of this religion. So that's what you're seeing here, the conflict between these groups and finding the real core essence of this practice and moving forward with them. As we'll keep going, the Yahweh Alone party, the party of the prophets, and Deuteronomists, another sect of this, ultimately triumphed, and their victory lies beyond the biblical narrative of an Israel vacillating between periods of following other gods and periods of fidelity to Yahweh. When Judah became an Assyrian vassal state after the destruction of Israel in 722 BCE, just to chime in, that was with Titus, as with Rome, when they came to destroy the second Israel temple. And that's where the one and only Josephus gave his description of what happened, but we all know his sources are pseudo, but that's for another day. The relationships between the king and dynastic god Yahweh and Judah came to be thought of in terms of Assyrian vassal treaties. So what you see here is pretty much the Yahwism triumphing other sectors and setting up the rules of this religion moving forward, pretty much picking and choosing what they like and what they dislike.